Hey guys, so I'm really excited about the video you're about to watch, but I needed to give you a quick forward because this is a discussion that I had with Kevin Morehouse today, who's a great friend of mine. He's a great language learner, a great writer, a blogger, and he knows a lot about online entrepreneurship and lots of things like that. We've been friends for a while now, and he's also learning Korean. So you may remember him from my week 1 update of my Korean studies. And so we're both studying Korean. He's a little bit further along than I am. And so I asked him if we could do a call for YouTube for you guys, where I would basically propose an activity for him that I thought would be great for our Korean that we could do together. But the problem is we ended up getting into this very interesting discussion on sort of general language learning as it pertains to Korean in some ways, but it's also very general and applies to all language learning. And it lasted about 30 minutes, and so we ended up running out of time. And so I actually decided that this would be one video, and then I'll do another video tomorrow, which will be us sort of doing this activity that I wanted to propose to him. And then there's going to be a third very exciting video where we're going to basically perform the results of the activity to you. And we're going to have a special guest who is a very exciting person and a very accomplished person in the field of Korean learning and education. He's done a lot of things online. He has courses, and he's an unbelievable speaker of Korean. And very knowledgeable about the Korean culture. So that's all to come. So today is going to be just the initial discussion that Kevin and I had. Tomorrow we're going to meet again and reconvene, and we're going to do this activity. We're going to build it together. And then I think early next week will be the third part in this little mini activity Korean series. And I hope you guys like it. So please tell me if you like the video, and please tell me if you enjoy these type of sort of general discussions on language learning with interesting people such as Kevin. Because if you like it, I'll be more than happy to arrange more of them and to film them for you guys. We could do them live. We could totally do YouTube live videos, and you guys could post questions, comments, and join the discussion. So let me know your thoughts, and if you guys like this stuff, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And if you want to support me on Patreon, it's patreon.com/lifeofrob. So here is the video. Okay, we are live.
All right.
Unless you're not watching this live. We're not actually live at all, but we're live in terms of the fact that we're recording a video.
I'm live and you're live.
Exactly, we're live right now at least. So anyway. All right, so everybody, this is Kevin Morehouse. For those of you who don't know Kevin, Kevin is the creator, author of the fantastic blog, Language Hero.
Yes, Language Hero, and then also you can now find me at lingacore.com also.
There you go. Yeah, Kevin has written a lot of great articles, and actually it's funny, I read an article of Kevin's a very long time ago, having never met Kevin. We exchanged comments, like I commented because it was a good article. I'm going to make a video about that article, I think. And then Kevin responded to me, we had a nice exchange, and then like 2 years later, we were like friends, like collaborating on a project with like Luca Lamparello, not realizing that we had already like had this exchange, and we one day it clicked, and I was like, "Oh my, was that you?" So
yeah, it was an interesting 6 degrees of separation kind of a thing.
It was very bizarre, and now here we are, and this is totally unrelated to all those things. I never thought I'd be learning Korean at that point.
I did. I thought I would.
Yeah, so you're way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, so to the point. So today, so basically, Kevin is also learning Korean. Some of you guys will know I'm doing my Korean from Scratch series. And I don't know, I had this cool idea because Kevin, so you're quite a bit further along than me, right? So how long have you been studying Korean now?
I mean, I don't know if I said quite a bit. I started officially, it's like 75 or 80 days ago.
Okay.
I know that because I'm in a 90-day challenge.
Right.
So, and so I'm still doing that. So yeah, it was not too long ago. And then prior to that, like 5 years ago, I had dabbled a little bit in Korean for like a month and a half.
Right. So a little bit of background, but really the last
I had a little bit
days.
of head start, but not by much.
Yeah, and I have somewhat of a head start in the sense that I have Japanese, which is possibly more. Well, I would imagine a lot more of a head start.
I'm waiting for the point where you're just gonna blow past me. But
it definitely helps. It's for sure, and I think especially with, I think to be honest, man, I think it's like the syntax.
Yeah,
Because there's no question that I think one of the hardest thing in Japanese, and the reason why it takes such a long time for people to start speaking Japanese, is it's just so difficult to wrap your head around that syntax, right? Having the verb at the end of the sentence, and everything is so backwards. Whereas in Korean, for me, it just feels totally natural. In fact, there's it's been seamless in that regard. Not to say that I'm speaking Korean great, but like there's never been any moment of like, God, this is weird, or like, you know, struggling to put the words in the right order. So I would say it's a huge advantage in that regard.
Yeah. So
and also a lot of the words, for example, like shigan, just example, shigan in Japanese is jikan.
Okay.
Just example, right? You know, or like you know, like would you say hanshigan, like half an hour? I guess in Korean.
Half. Well, I mean, I know.
It's I think it is right. Hanshigan.
Well, you can say ban. Well, han is one.
Oh, sorry, banshigan.
Well, I don't know. Ban shigan. I don't know if you can say. I know you can say, for the time, you can say like something like half past whatever. You would say like, yoshi ban.
That's right. So I think you can. I'm just guessing. See, now already I'm guessing based on Japanese, right? So in Japanese you can say hanjikan, right? So in Japanese it's hanjikan. So banshigan is not a big stretch, right? And things like hakyo in Korean is gakko in Japanese, and then hakuseng in Korean is gakusei in Japanese. So there's a ton of benefit. And it's funny because I've heard a lot of people that claim to have studied Japanese and then Korean kind of claim that it's not that big of a help in the end. But I'm not sure that's because they just didn't truly have a higher level in Japanese, high enough level for it to transfer over. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've seen your Japanese videos, so I know like you're very comfortable speaking Japanese, so that definitely helps. And a lot of people, you know, don't ever reach a level that's particularly high.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a big part of it. But I do know from just things I've seen and heard that Koreans learn Japanese very quickly, and Japanese people learn Korean very quickly. So you have to think syntax and vocabulary, all the things you're talking about are a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. And so in my case, in terms of concrete study, I'm right at about 30, I'm right about, I'd say, let's call it 35 days or something, because I did like 4 or 5, I did 6 episodes of my Create from Scratch series, but a couple of them were in the same day. And then I'm right at about 1 month now since I got back. So we're both fairly new, but I think we're both learning pretty quickly. I've been quite frustrated, honestly, because I'm not sure about your side, but you can tell us. I've been pretty frustrated because although I am learning, I guess, quite fast, it's like I know I could be literally 3 or 4 times ahead of where I am now, you know, like in normal circumstances. But like, oh my God, man, poor Kevin has had to be very patient with my responses to messages and you know, just drowning. This website is like the last 2 days I was off work and I told myself website 4 hours and then Korean and then everything else I'm doing. Spent like 10 hours on the website both days. Like it's just so, but at the same time I like that because it's, as I've mentioned in my series, like, well, that's the way life is, right? So at the very least this is a truly authentic documentation of my experience learning Korean. How's it been for you? Do you feel like you've like accomplished what you wanted to accomplish in this time so far, or?
I think I'm going at a good pace. You know, I feel very comfortable. I
concur.
Kind of what
with your pace.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, I can definitely kind of relate to, because I mean, I honestly I enjoy learning Korean so much that I can spend all day. You know, I could potentially spend all day learning Korean if I wanted to. But obviously, you know.
And normally I do. Like this is what I'm like. I find every nook and cranny, you know. And it is. And it doesn't matter how busy I am. It's just at the moment I just have so many things that are unusually outside of language learning and that are also such a high priority. You know but there you go. That's how it like. That's life, right? So.
Yeah, that's everybody. So I mean, for me, at least I'm hitting, you know, my base targets, which I mean, I'm in a language challenge. I'm in the Add One challenge right now, and my target that I set for myself is 1 hour a day. So as long as I hit that, I'm perfectly content. Right. And you know, and then in an ideal situation, I could learn Korean all day, every day, and of course I could be way further than I am now, but as long as I'm continuing on my set pace, I don't mind so much.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Like, I don't know if you agree with this, but so for those of you once again who may not know Kevin, I think more people know Kevin, honestly, but my viewers may not. I don't know. So Kevin's also like a very experienced language learner. Has written a lot about language learning. Kevin speaks several languages as well. Yeah. So this is definitely neither of our first rodeo. And I know for me, it is amazing. Like the more every time I learn a new language, like it gets. I don't know, like the details matter less and less. It's almost like the amount of time I spend on it matters less and less. Like it's at a certain point, it just becomes this seamless like assimilation process. I don't know how to describe it, but whereas so like sometimes even if I don't spend that much time on it, it just seems like there's this absorption going on.
Yeah.
That where like maybe with my first language every minute counted and it made a huge difference, whereas now it just seems I don't know how to describe it, but it's so interesting.
I think what you're getting at, if I'm on the same wavelength, is that so many people who are less experienced with languages, they view language learning as like a length of time project. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna be learning, French for 3 months or Spanish for a year or what have you, and they view it as this is going to take a length of time. Now, for people like me and you, at the very least, we're viewing this as a life skill. Once we gain fluency in the language, we don't plan to lose it or let it go down. So we know that the thing that matters is that you have the daily habit, and then we're just going to keep doing it. Like we're not looking, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, in the sense that we're never going to be finished. So what matters is what we're doing today and what we'll do tomorrow and the next day, and we're not looking towards some imagined end of the process.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you, and I think the other side, like that's definitely one side of it in terms of like what I'm experiencing, and then the other side of it, when I say the details matter less and less, is that once again, like methodology. Like I know that a lot of polyglots, for example, have like a very specific method that they like will either use or that they will like sort of market as a tool that people can also try to learn and everything. But in my case, it really matters less and less and less. It's just like it really doesn't matter anymore. It's like, let me just find the resources I have, and I really just don't care anymore. Like I found a great resource with Korean, as you know. So I'm mostly using Talk to Me Korean right now, and then I found like some dramas that you recommended to me. I've been watching what is it now? The Strong Woman.
Oh yeah,
yeah, which is so funny, man. I'm loving it.
I love that show.
Yeah, and I found some music, and like it just doesn't matter anymore. I just don't care, because I know that like I'm gonna get what I need from wherever. I don't know. I just don't care, and like I just kind of go with it, and it's just fun,
I mean, I know exactly what you mean. Where methods are useful, but they're all stepping stones. The most important thing is that you have the daily habit. As long as you keep going, you'll get there.
Yeah, exactly.
When I started, it's not like I have a concrete plan that I'm going to be doing this for X amount of months, and then I'm going to switch to this and this and this. I mean, I have ideas. I've learned, tons of different methods and strategies and little things to do over the years, but I don't have a set plan. I mean, I had bought God knows how many Korean courses before I even started, and then I started and was like, okay, what appeals to me most now? What do I think I'm going to get the most value out of? I made the decision kind of after the fact, and I found some things that I really enjoy, and I'm going to do them until I either finish them or I get tired of them and then move on to something else.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing, right? So you have to be adaptable, and I always talk about that in my videos. Like you have to be adaptable. Every language is going to be different in its in of itself. It's going to have different resources available. It's going to have like, so for example, in Japanese, I learned like so much Japanese from dramas, and I did watch Japanese films in the end, but it was when I was already very advanced, and it was more as a study of Japanese culture and enjoying it. But I use dramas as a massive resource. But with French, I struggled. My initial reaction at the time was to find dramas and TV shows, because I had come from Japanese, had a really hard time. But I watched hundreds of French films, because I found a lot more French films that I enjoyed. And then in Swedish, I ended up learning Swedish from an adult novel, like very early on, because I just couldn't find other stuff, so just used a novel, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly right about how different languages all offer different things.
Right.
I mean, one example from my experience learning French, when I learned French, I watched YouTube like every day, and it was like French YouTubers who were like these really funny people, and they made all these great little topical videos on different things. I love that, and I did that literally every single day.
Like Norman.
I even just watched one of those. I threw a video on yesterday, and I still could hear it in my head. Like all the like the sound memory came back.
Right.
Bizarre. Yeah. But then I moved on to German last year, And I mean, there's some good stuff in German on YouTube, but not anywhere near there was in French. And that actually caused me to struggle a bit because, like you said, you want, when you find an experience that really works for you, you kind of want to replicate it in the next language. But not every language is going to have a really developed culture in, for example, I don't like French dramas. They don't have dramas in the Asian sense.
Right, exactly.
Things like that.
And that was one of the reasons why I was excited about Korean, because I knew coming into it with the explosion of Korean pop culture and its popularity around the world, because it's not like they've always had it, but it's the popularity, for example, in the English-speaking world as an example, because that popularity meant that I was pretty sure I'd be able to find, for example, Korean subtitles. Like I was pretty sure that I'd be able to find those things. So with Swedish, the reason why I went to a Swedish novel was because I did find a few great Swedish films, but I had a very hard time finding Swedish subtitles because there's just not as much demand like for that, and there aren't many people learning Swedish. And so and then also just the things I want to do. With French, I remember watching Les Petites Einsteins. Like I remember I found it because I was like, I gotta train my listening. I couldn't understand a thing, and like I was doing ASML at the time. I don't do ASML anymore. Just because I would if I haven't done it in a long time, just because, and I haven't also watched like small children's shows either for a while, because I feel like now I don't know if you agree, I feel like there's like a listening skill that's just kind of separate. Like you just get better at identifying sounds, at decoding things, at processing foreign like syntax or whatever it might be. And so now I find I can just skip that part, a lot of times. So just the things you want to do, I just that's what I find anyway. And I know a lot of people that I think they have quite a rigid process, which has benefits, but sometimes I'm not sure if I feel like some people I have spoken to sometimes like they kind of want to do one thing, but that's not that's not the routine, so they stick to the plan. Which I think sometimes might limit people a little bit.
I mean, if I've learned anything about language learning, it really, I mean, we kind of said this before, but it really doesn't matter how you go about it. Everybody, I mean, people that sell a method and stuff, the majority of the time, that's just what they found to work best for them.
Right.
So it's something that might work well for anyone that's anyone that's watching this.
Right.
But that's just, they're just speaking from their own experience.
Right,
so,
exactly.
So if they feel like that's what they need to do, they need to do this to the detriment of other things, then they're just going to do that, and that's their process.
Right.
I mean, so like you said, some people are very rigid, and some people are very flexible. And then also, as we're saying, you do have to maintain a certain level of flexibility, because you won't find everything you like in every language.
And like I said, if you change, like, because I think, for example, going into any course, like let's say, like going into ASML, I did it with several languages, and I always knew from the very beginning I wouldn't finish it. That didn't mean because I couldn't. It meant it's because I know that around lesson 100 or 140, whatever it is,
like 80 to 100,
I just don't need it anymore. Like I literally feel myself like there's a natural pull towards like new things, and like I want to move on to dramas or to read. I want to try a novel or whatever it might be, right? Like, and so I think I would be greatly limiting myself if I forced myself, because it would take like an extra month or two to finish those last 40 lessons, depending on your pace. Especially if you're a less hardcore learner, like that might take you a long time. I think that's very limiting, and that's why I know we've talked to him in Korean. I'm not kidding, man. There's like 9 levels, I think, right, for the beginner.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding, man. I may not make it through level 2 before I I might. I don't know yet, because I don't know when I'll hit that point. But the point is, I already have stuff lined up. I got stuff lined up already that I'm dying to jump into that is designed for advanced learners, but I don't care. I know now when I'm ready to just tackle it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you reach a saturation point. I mean, I had the same exact experience with ASML, and honestly, anyone that I know that's used it has had the same experience.
Right.
It is great. It is great, and you'll do it, and you'll do it for a while, and you'll hit less than 80, you'll hit less than 90, 100, and you'll just start to hate it.
Right.
And it's not because the quality has changed, but it's just that you're kind of saturated and you don't need it. So at that time, it's better to not force it, and it's better to just move on.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with like talk to me in Korean, like I have this idea in my head that I am going to do all 9 levels. Right. I don't know if that's the case. I've gone through like 2.5. I'm like midway through level 3, and I'm still learning from it. But like we'll see. I mean, I know they have plenty of other things that I can learn from too. So like you said, I have things lined up to turn to if I do reach that point where I'm like, okay, I could be better served elsewhere in terms of resources.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's good. It's a good little point. And I think one last little point to make. I guess we'll probably just split these videos. Probably just do 2 videos for YouTube. We'll do like one, which is a discussion on language learning, you know, and then we'll do like the second part, which is like the exercise we're going to do, which I'll introduce in a moment. But the last point I wanted to make is that I think this is really useful, like, because obviously in my series I want people to relate to it. They're not going to relate to everything because not everybody has my experience or whatever, or my background of like Japanese, whatever. But I think one thing is that I think if this was my first language and I had zero confidence and zero knowledge or whatever, I may have already given up, maybe, in the sense that I had so many setbacks with Korean so far, so many days where I didn't make it. And I was very disappointed. About 2 weeks ago, I was only like 2 weeks in, and I already started speaking, and I started sending. We had our messages on WhatsApp that I showed. I was 1 week in, actually. That was the 1 week update. The next day, I started sending messages to my friend Sol, who I know her through Japan, but she's actually Korean. So, and I started to feel it just like becoming a part of me. And then I had so many setbacks in the following week, and then a week later, I felt like my Korean was actually worse. And it was very discouraging, but the thing is now, right? There's like I have no concern because I just know as long as I keep going, I'm gonna make it. There's like zero part of me that has any doubt of that. But I think that's obviously one of the huge things that polyglots have as an advantage is that we don't care because we know we'll make it. Whereas first-time language learners, they don't know. They're not sure. We know they can.
Exactly it.
But they don't know, and I think that discouragement and everything, it's like I'm hoping that maybe if there are people out there watching this that may have felt that or are feeling it, hopefully that can be a nice encouraging point where it's like, don't worry, like you will make it, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't like discussions of which language is the hardest, because I think the first one is the hardest, no matter what it is.
Right.
Because the first one you just kind of have to wrap your brain around something that it's just kind of not prepared for, and you don't know if you can do it.
Right.
But then once you do that, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, it gets so much easier. I mean, like, I know the American military, like the FSI rates Korean as like the hardest language for English speakers, at least American English speakers, to learn. And like, I'm not saying Korean's not difficult, but like, I don't feel any of it because it's like, of course there's difficult parts, and I'm going to get through those difficult parts, and the difficulty doesn't matter. It's like I'm going to speak Korean no matter what. I'm going to figure it out. So
exactly.
I don't focus on difficulty and say, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Because you just, with time and exposure, you always get over those.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like me when I moved to Finland very briefly and was going to potentially live there. You remember, because we talked about it, right? It was zero hesitation with Finnish. Oh man, like zero. I was pumped. I was like, and I made a video on my YouTube channel that was kind of a random. I just recorded it on my phone randomly, and it's one of my most viewed videos. I don't know what else happens. Like the video you put the least effort into is the one that gets like thousands of views, and then the one you spend hours and hours on. But man, I was excited, and it's just I think it's that like just curiosity and that excitement, enthusiasm, and just that knowledge that like no matter, as long as you just keep going, like and have fun, like you will make it. You will.
In the Finnish case, I remember, I forget where it was. It might have been on Chris Broholm's podcast, Actual Fluency. I think you said like you got people to talk to you in Finnish. Like
Finnish, that's right. Yeah.
And I mean, I've never tried that, but I know I have close Finnish friends, and they speak English like amazing. Yeah. So I mean, the fact that you just got random Finnish people to speak to you in Finnish, out of nowhere, at you're very, very much an A1 beginner.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Right. So. Yeah. Exactly. Right. So it's just fun. And so now, moving on to Korean. Right. So I'm not sure if you saw the video I did in Swedish. Do you ever see that video?
I may have.
Oh, you know what? I have a story to tell you from today. I do. Okay. This is fun. Okay. This is all related.
Story
okay.
Time.
No, seriously, man, this is a fun day.
Right, cool.
Okay, so the reason I'm mentioning, I believe I'm not personally a subscriber of the speak from day one method. It's controversial.
Yeah.
I don't really take part in the controversy, but I'm just like, that's not what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit of a hybrid because I'm also so I'm kind of like a silent period type guy in the sense that I just don't feel the need to speak in the beginning. I just learn, just listen, read, whatever. I just learn. I don't, but I do know that typically I start speaking extremely quickly despite that. Right. And I do believe, and this is what I did with Swedish as an experiment. And I made a video, I'll link it here. I made a video where I had never ever spoken Swedish to a person before, but I developed like a basic fluency and decent command of Swedish, and I made a video a video speaking fluent Swedish.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had never even spoken to a person. So although I'm not like a speak from day one and all this stuff, I typically speak quickly, but I do believe that you don't necessarily need people to develop fluency in a language, or at least a certain degree of basic fluency, right?
Yeah.
And so that Swedish experiment was a testament to that, because I didn't know if I could do it or not. But I kind of did know, because I just believed it. I was like, I know that if I want to, I can develop spoken fluency in a language if I have to do it, and I did. Today, I haven't spoken Swedish. To this day, I've had like 3 chances in my whole life to speak Swedish to a person, right? And I haven't. The last time I could do that was like a year ago, almost now. And I have not maintained Swedish. I've barely maintained Swedish, to my great dismay, and I haven't been studying it whatsoever. Today, I was working in the cafe where I work, the coffee shop. I was playing some Swedish punk music, a band that I like. And this guy came in, he's like, "Oh, good band, I know this band." I was like, "Yeah, good old Swedish." He was like, "Why are you playing Swedish music?" And I was like, "Well, I speak Swedish." And then he starts speaking Swedish to me. Turns out he's from Iran, but he's telling me all this in Swedish, and he's like, "I'm from Iran, but I ended up having to leave and going to a Swedish town as a refugee, and I grew up in Sweden." And this and that, and we're doing all this in Swedish, and we're chatting away, and I didn't even think I could do that, honestly. In the first 30 seconds, I struggled a lot. And then with the next minute, it just all kind of came back, and I did stumble a bit. But I mean, we had a full-on fluent conversation in Swedish for about 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah.
I told him I'd never been to Sweden and barely spoken, and he was blown away. And then he mentioned he learned German in school, and so we switched to German, and we did German for 5 minutes. And I also have not been doing my German at all. And this and that, so it's just super interesting. First to say that the reason why I brought that up is because I think that you and I right now we're starting to speak in Korean at a much earlier stage, and I think most people even think it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm 35, 36 days in, whatever. You're 70, 80, 85 days in. I think most people, I don't know, I don't think most people think that they could possibly start speaking at any level of fluency at that stage. Sorry, that was a ramble, but I believe that you can really start quite early to one degree or another.
I mean, I think there's kind of 2 sides to it. I think most of the time we say speak as early as possible for the people that aren't used to ever speaking any foreign language with anybody. That's like a kind of a fear of people's to begin with.
Right.
For me, it's like, okay, I don't need to speak from day one. I don't feel that need, but I'm at the point now where I want to start speaking with native speakers, not necessarily because I need the practice speaking a language with somebody, but because I want the feedback, because there's only so long you can operate on your own without native feedback. So, you don't want to ingrain any bad habits. So now I'm at the point where I've learned a bunch of things. Now I want to kind of show it to somebody, say, all right, where are the rough edges? What do I need to fix and tweak and whatnot? And then just keep going from there. Right.
That's good. It's true. And then there's one more thing that I have, which is I get this desire. It just happens where once I accumulate a certain amount of, I mentioned this briefly in my 1 week update, where even after 1 week, I had this urge to speak already. I felt like I just needed more words and more structures, but which might seem obvious, but no, it's not obvious, because with Japanese, for example, it took me a heck of a long time, man, months and months, and I think I was a year and a half, or even I was like a year and a half in, still couldn't speak to save my life. And I didn't have it, I didn't have a grasp, but like, so there's a certain point that I reach where I just start to like, it's like I have the tools and I have this urge to let them out.
Yeah.
And that's where I am now, where I'm like, I'm still missing a ton of stuff, but I'm like, I want to like, I need to, use this. And the exercise we're going to do today, it's not a super new thing. This isn't revolutionary, but this is just something I decided, like, I want to do this with Kevin. I thought it'd be really cool.
Can I just mention?
Yes, go for it.
I have no idea what this is.
Okay, so I deliberately have kept this from Kevin, so he has no clue. We're going to try to keep this we're going to try and keep it short. So I'm going to, I just, cut the last video, and now we're going to move into this one. So we're going to do this fairly short so that you guys can watch it if you're interested, and I may also make an edited version that's shorter. So what we're going to do today is, so I know you've learned a lot of stuff. You've learned a lot of Korean already. I've learned less, but I still feel like it's quite a lot. And I have to admit, I'm starting to I'm finding it a little bit difficult to keep it all together, especially because of the sporadic nature of how I'm studying and everything. And so what I always like to do is find ways to organize my knowledge. I talked in some videos previously about building your own content catalog, where I study and learn languages in a very specific way that makes it easier for me to review it and maintain it, but also to revive it if I ever forget it. So today is one way of doing that. I'm curious to see what you think. What I want to do is I would like us to create a fairly complex dialogue, basically.
Okay. That
will hopefully use a lot, if not maybe even a majority of the things that we've learned. Basically as a way to sort of, to practice our fluency. It'd be great if we could create a dialogue where we could essentially switch roles. So my thought was, it's a great way to take all this stuff that we've both learned and to kind of just package it nicely into one large dialogue. Typically you'll get these very short dialogues, right, that will focus on one thing. And you could do lots of different dialogues. But I was like, what if we could create a fairly good-sized dialogue that really incorporates a lot of what we have learned, and that just will package it all nicely, and we could practice it to the point where we could do like a very fluent conversation with that limited dialogue. So it's not like we're not pretending we're fluent in Korean yet. No. But if we can execute that dialogue fluently in both positions, I think that's going to do great things for both assimilating the structures and memorizing them better and everything else, but also for internalizing all of everything. But it will also allow us to have an easy, compact place to put what we've learned so far. And then our goal, and then the idea that we both had was that then we could go away and practice it. We may do some WhatsApp messages for fun to help each other, and then we can come back and do a follow-up video with your good friend Jeremy. Because of time, I think maybe we'll introduce him more in like a different video.
When we bring him in, we'll bring him. Yeah,
he's a cool guy though. You guys are gonna want to see that video because he is an amazing.
If you're watching this, you might even know. You
may, as far he's that guy knows his Korean. Yeah, really, really, really well. So, but we'll do a follow-up video where we'll kind of perform it. So we'll see if we can kind of perform that dialogue in at the best fluency that we can. And then Jeremy will give us his feedback and either help, maybe he'll correct, because I'm sure we may make some mistakes. So maybe he can help us correct those mistakes. Maybe he can give us some pronunciation tips, or maybe he can help us to improve that dialogue and make it more colloquial, whatever it might be. What do you think?
I think it's an amazing idea.
Perfect. All right. So, and obviously you know more than me. So we can obviously, I'm sure we can even add some new stuff that would be new for me. The cool thing is we're both learning from the same source. I think you're learning from more sources than me.
I've got a couple of different sources also, but
right. But still, so it's a great way for me to both expand my knowledge, but it's also, I may learn some new stuff that I will later learn through my study. So I just think it's good all around. The one criticism, well, there may be more, but the one criticism I could see some people having, especially perhaps in our community, because I'm a bit of an outsider in various of my opinions. And one of them is, like, for example, a lot of people do say that you should only speak to native speakers because they don't want to pick up habits from other foreigners. I talked about this in my last video, and I don't believe that. I think people who say, like, oh, you risk permanently damaging your X, Y, and Z, I don't personally buy that. I feel like everything, I just think that's very limiting.
Yeah.
So I think some people may say, what if you guys make a mistake in the dialogue and then you're practicing a mistake? I'm not personally worried about that.
Yeah, we're gonna make mistakes. It's
Right.
just gonna happen. So if you want to sit and nitpick the video, yeah, there's gonna be mistakes.
Right.
But the point is, we're gonna get the feedback.
Exactly.
Feedback is gonna happen. We're gonna deal those mistakes out.
Exactly. And in my opinion, like there's always a flip side. Okay, we might practice a mistake and internalize that at some degree. But you know what? When we analyze it, I mean, if you see Kevin and I's messages, we send like a 20-second audio message and then we have like 17 paragraphs of analyzing it. Yeah. Even if we do, the more we internalize the mistake and we find out that it's a mistake, the more we're never gonna forget that, because we're gonna realize, okay, this was wrong and here's why, right?
Yeah, I mean, people talk about fossilized errors and stuff, but I've even tried to dig through the research and I haven't found any proof that errors are ever actually fossilized. It's just how much you care, in the sense that, you can be a near native speaker of Korean and still make a few little, mistakes here and there. But if you keep working with that mindset where you're like, you keep asking for feedback and saying, oh, what am I still doing? What mistakes am I still making today at an advanced level? Right. As long as you still care about getting better, you will get better, and you still will throw out mistakes.
Exactly, yeah. And you know what's a great example? Me, native English speaker.
Yep.
You may know this, but a lot of people in England, in certain areas like the Midlands, for example, they pronounce 3 and 3 the same way.
Oh, I did not know that.
So you'll hear people going, "Oh, mate, can I get 3 Cokes, please, and 3 bags of chips? Free."
Yeah.
I did that my whole. I did that for 16 and a half years, I guess. Came to the United States, had a really good friend, Connor Dermott, who, by the way, now is like just released his first. He's like a singer in like Los Angeles and just released his first single and album. I'm so proud of him. Wow. But he was like just a wee lad when I met him, and he used to make fun of me all the time. But one time he was actually full on correct, where he was like, I think I was like calling out a play in basketball. I was like, number 3, and he was like 3, and he just corrected me. It was so funny, man. And he was like, he tried to get me to say it, and I never lived this down. I was like 30, and he was like 30, and then like every day it was like 30 pizza, 30. But the point is, like, that's a freaking long time to internalize an error. 16 and a half years, native language, but it took almost no effort at all to fix it.
Yeah, it's just what you focus on is like if you can still notice that you're making mistakes and you still care that you're making a mistake, you can always change it. You
and I did. It took like a few weeks.
Heighten your consciousness.
Actually, I don't know. I'm not sure how long it took, but there was some time where I had to consciously make sure I was saying 3, but at a certain point, just now it's second nature. I would never make that mistake ever again. So the point is like, no, I don't know. Even for a native speaker who's been making a mistake his whole life, you can still change and fix that. So
I mean, one thing in the same vein, I don't want to take up too much time, but there's a good video by this YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day, and this guy just does all these cool experiments, and one of them is with this backwards bicycle, in the sense that it's a bike, but instead of a normal bike where you turn left with the handlebars to turn left, and you turn right to turn right, it's reversed, and so it's supposed to be like super impossible to ride for people that already know how to ride a bike. The guy decided, okay, I'm going to learn how to ride this backwards bike after knowing for years how to ride an actual bike, and you could see the process he goes through, and then one day it just clicks. He knows how to reflexively ride this totally backwards bike, and he's like, I've known how to ride a bike all my life, and this is just the totally opposite experience, but now I can do this. And then he tried to go back to the original way of riding a bike, and it took him like a much more shorter time to pick that back up again. But still, at first he was like, "Oh my God, this is totally foreign to me now. Something that used to be totally familiar." So you can unlearn things. It's just how much drilling you do.
Exactly.
And practice and
and how you treat the experience, right? So.